Welcome to my diary, an unedited, truthful account of my thoughts on life and living in my tiny little bus, the Prancing Pony. Thank you so much to my patrons for making content like this possible. I couldn't do it without you. The 22nd of August, 2021. Well, it is a Sunday and I am coming to you from exactly where I thought I would not be. It has been, how do I put this, in a way that doesn't seem terribly negative, but it has been a very eventful past 24 hours. I would like to preface this by saying the bus is okay, and most importantly, myself, my fiance, and our 2 cats are doing just fine. No one was hurt, nothing was damaged. So with that in mind, I'd like to tell you a little bit about how the bus got stuck in the sand. I'm not even sure sand is the right word. Dust, more like. We've roamed mostly around Southern California, and I've noticed in mountainous regions and even at the bottoms in the valleys, there is not really a soil like I have been used to growing up in New York, in apple and cow and corn country. The soil is very fine and a light brown from lack of any sort of significant rain. And it kicks up terribly easily. The particles are so fine, in fact, that I would not even classify it as sand. It is dust. And as this truck drives on the road behind me, he leaves a cloud of turbulent and twisting dust in his wake. I experienced this a lot when we were on the mountaintop outside of San Diego, where it was this beautiful grass plain in the middle of mountain peaks. It was, again, an incredibly popular spot for off-roading, and rightfully so. However, the land so badly needed the grass, because without it, the dust was uncontrollable, unreal. It just amazes me, the sheer amount that is kicked up in this place. Granted, places that are not roads where the wildlife has been cleared are the worst areas, and they get the most traffic. Because everywhere else, it's much like a forest floor. Bits of bark, twigs, pine needles, oak leaves, acorns, pine cones, seed pods of all kinds. And I'm sure contributions from the local little animals are everywhere as well. We definitely had a bird leave us a little present on our back window, and I have been so overwhelmed, I have not removed it yet. Maybe it was a bird granting us good luck, as they believe in some parts of the world. Yesterday, we had fixed some plumbing problems that we had. We still have not had a perfectly functional freshwater tank to sink water system. We pinpointed a few places that need to be repaired, did the necessary repairs the day before, and then set out to fill the fresh tank. We kept some supplies with us, like extra PEX tubing, connections, plumber's tape, cutters, a wrench, the whole thing, just in case anything went terribly awry. We went up the mountain to, well, up is a general term. We had to go down and then back up the mountain. We both went in the bus. I had driven the Toyota, our little red secondary car, to our new spot that we were planning on relocating our camp. I had been to this spot multiple times to do some work, enjoy being outside, and my fiance Jacob came with me that day to make sure the road was okay. The campsite was level enough where we could make it work for our couple-week stay. So once that was safely in its place, we both piled into the bus with our beautiful cats, packed everything up, and headed on some crazy winding roads with stunning views to fill up our gray tank at a random gas station about, I'd say a 45-minute drive from here. In the state of California, water is considered a human right, so places are not allowed to charge for you to use their hoses to, say, fill a water tank like we were. Some places are even set up to charge, but they have to post a sign saying, well, in the state of California, we can't charge you, but you can put quarters in if you like. Not every gas station or whatever sort of station offers this service, probably for that reason. So we went to the one we were familiar with, that we had been using to fill just a 6-gallon jerry can and do the drive up and the drive back with while we tried to figure out our tank situation. We made it up safely. The filling went great. I was inside monitoring everything. We had fixed 2 leaks in 2 different parts of the system, and all of that seemed to be doing well. We were nervous about the air inlet and outlet. Good old science of displacement. If you put something into a container, you have to have room for the air to leave, and vice versa, of course. The kind of tubing we used for this, as we were instructed, was not ideal. It was quite difficult to work with, not very flexible, too big. It just was bulky, and we had taken out some other types of this pipe previously when we had major leak problems. We didn't have the parts on hand to remove this section of this piping as well. I wish we had. But out of precaution, we filled the fresh tank below the exit port for airflow, just in case, because we had a feeling it probably would not work out in our favor. So once the tanks were dry, I was feeling around. Everything felt bone dry, good to go. I was very excited. We pulled over in front of a little forest to have some lunch before we made our way back to our new campsite. The ride back went smoothly. It was great. The cats do so well with traveling. I am so proud of them. I'm just beaming. They go in their little safe spots and they just sleep. And they're like, okay, wake me up when it's over, which I usually happily do, and with treats in hand. We had turned off the road to get to our new campsite off of a different forest road than we had been staying on. Again, I was familiar with this road, my fiance was familiar with this road, but there was one little part at the very beginning that we knew we needed to be cautious of. Our bus is not big. It's definitely large for a regular, non-commercial sort of vehicle. It is a 23-foot shuttle bus, and I had been very careful to keep in mind the length between the wheels when scouting out this road. What I had forgotten about is that our bumper is probably a good 5 feet or so from our backmost wheel. That's quite a lot. So while our tires made it down the little dip just fine and started to head up, our back bumper got caught on the higher part of the hill. 3 of our 4 sets of tires had traction, but fortunately, our back bumper, the rubber is fastened to this solid rod of metal, which got buried in the sand. One of our wheels, after trying a couple of times, managed to dig a hole in this dust. If we had hit this hill about 2 feet to the left, where the ground was not sloped quite so steeply, it was a little bit more traveled and therefore packed down a little bit more solidly, we probably would have been fine. But it was a long day. We had done a lot of mountain driving in the bus, gone through the stress of, will our tank leak, will it not leak? And we just wanted to get probably not even 1/8 of a mile up to the road where our little red car was already parked in our would-be campsite. Well, I can tell you that didn't happen. Our bus all of a sudden seemed enormous, and it is a forest road, fortunately, so not exactly busy off the main road and not fairly frequently trodden. That was part of the appeal of this new spot, is the forest road that we had been parked on is very busy, as I've mentioned before. But this one, out of all of the times I had been up there, and I would spend hours up there at a time, I had maybe seen 1 to 2 vehicles, and that's it. We moved the bus on a Saturday, which there are generally more cars on Saturday. So first, a vehicle, an SUV from the other direction, had to stop because our not actually that big but seemingly huge bus was blocking the road. They frantically got out to try to help us. They had kids in the back seat, and I could tell that their partner was quite upset at the fact that they couldn't just go around in their 4-wheel drive vehicle. She wanted to get the kids to a particular place. So the husband seemed to be under a lot of pressure to help us and started making myself and my fiance rather nervous as he was putting his hands under the wheels to attempt to dig us out of a hole. The bus was in park and everything, but still in such a tedious situation, it was very nerve-wracking. And we discovered, much to our dismay, we don't have a shovel. We should probably get a shovel. I called our tow truck. We have a AAA service for the bus specifically, since it's registered under the RV coverage. So I called them. As soon as the tow truck arrived, yet another vehicle coming down from the forest trail decided to stop. A Jeep, actually. And the tow truck guy was so nice. Everyone was very nice. They never blamed us. And fortunately, the person who had pulled up in the Jeep got out of his car, a military man who happened to have a lot of equipment, a lot of know-how, and he and the tow truck worker decided to work together to puzzle us out of our sticky predicament. So with their brains and experience and the rest of us helping out to make it happen, hooking tow ropes first on one wheel to drag it to the side and out of the hole, and then to the other wheel, and eventually through to the back bumper to pull us backwards out of the road, we were free. Granted, this kind of thing happens and is expected, and I'm not mad about it, even in a little. It was nobody's fault. It was an accident, and generally speaking, everyone who happened to be involved were also not hurt and very kind. So instead of having us give the dip another try, my fiance and I decided it would be best to just back up and go back to our camp spot where we had spent the last 12 days or so. So here I am, chatting with you from a place where I definitely thought I wouldn't be, the same exact spot in our beautiful tree circle of cedars. And we're safe, and we very lovingly helped each other cook dinner, ate outside, loved the cats, made sure everyone was cared for, and just being gentle. I'm very thankful that my partner and I both have that instinct when things are stressful and a situation that can make anybody crumble. Our instinct is to care for each other and to care for ourselves and those we love. I would like to make a side note that when we did get the bus back to camp, that was not at all the end of the day's ordeals. Oh, goodness me. To put it briefly, and this is a part of living in a bus. In the bathroom, I had gone pee right before we moved the bus. And usually it's our protocol to empty it out so that we have no sort of liquids chilling anywhere that isn't sealed away. We forgot. So naturally, we got back to the campsite we had just left, and it was all over the shower pan, which a lot of stuff was packed into. I had to get rid of, unfortunately, I could not salvage a wooden tray that I use literally every day. So that had to be disposed of, unfortunately. Everything else was able to be disinfected and cleaned up. So that was fun. And then also, water started running out of one of the couches that contains the freshwater tank. We opened it up. Everything inside, as far as our belongings, were fine because we had taken precautionary measures. I had even left a full-size, full-body towel in the cabinet just in case we ran into some bumps along the road and some water decided to splash over into those troublesome pipes I had mentioned earlier. I suppose the way we are parked, we are at an ever so slightly forward slant. So the water line was above that air inlet. And it was, and unfortunately still is, really leaking. Currently, until we can get the water level down, as we don't want to waste water, we have an emergency water exit valve that comes out of the bottom of the tanks that we can access from underneath the bus in case, a situation like this arises. But we don't want to waste the water by just emptying it onto the ground. Not to mention it would make it so soft we would not be able to get the bus out of here. So what we've been doing is taking out water from the tanks from the bottom emergency exit valve a little bit at a time, putting it in our Berkey water filter, or just using it from the pitcher to wash dishes. And then doing this every day until we can get the water a safe level below. As we speak, the water level is just below that point as of right now. However, any movement, things could slosh. It's just not low enough to risk the amount of water that could come out of those openings in the tanks to detach them completely. And on top of that, new water may not be going into the air outlet tubing, but there's certainly water stuck in there. So I don't think those are going to drain properly until they drip themselves dry, or we decide to take care of it regardless. The sheer amount of water, I would not even put a bucket under the couch. I don't think we could fit one, quite frankly. So our fresh tank to sink plumbing situation is still not resolved. It's been causing us a lot of trouble ever since we started. But, one step closer. And being able to just carry more water around with you, more than 6 gallons. We had more. We had one more jerry can previously, so we could have 12 gallons at a time. But as I've mentioned previously, we've been using one of the jerry cans as a gray tank inside, so it's winterized. So now we only have one. And that's currently where we're at. For dinner, we had a really, really good stir fry with rice noodles and all sorts of veggies and tofu, and Jacob even made fresh lemonade, which was just so lovely. I have a little bit of this simple syrup that I created lying around that was made with fresh mint and fresh ginger, and I gotta say, it makes one of the best lemonades I have ever had. So if ginger mint lemonade sounds appealing to you, I really recommend you give it a try. I'm so thankful that we are all safe, that our vehicle is safe and pretty undamaged. It's more than drivable. It's in wonderful shape. It was a lot. I am really proud of myself, and my fiance for that matter. We didn't get mad. We didn't get angry. We didn't get upset. We dealt with the situation at hand. Admittedly, it was intense and stressful. And at the end of the day, we were just grateful and tired. So we're taking it easy today at our campsite in hopes for another move tomorrow, as we will be at our 14-day mark. Mayhaps we could do Tuesday if we needed more time. But I do like to, respect the rules and all kinds of stuff. I do wish we could stay in this spot for longer. It's been so good to us and has been so healing on multiple occasions now where things just have gone awry. But we have to move on, which isn't altogether a bad thing. There are more places to explore, more trees to meet, more birds to make friends with. So at the moment, my fiance is out scouting a new spot, actually up in the neighboring mountain town where we filled up our water tank yesterday. So I'm hoping for some good news, and if not, we will just have to continue to figure it out.